I've had a request from Mrs. Davenport to do a song that it sort of represents the kind of lifestyle that she has accustomed herself to over the years. And the song happens to be, If I Can Help Somebody. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody he is traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. Welcome, Mrs. Hawkins.
I am honored and gives me great joy to kind of have a conversation, not an interview, with my dear friend, Mrs. Dorothy Dines Davenport.
I was born in Washington, D.C., and I've lived there all my life until I came to Collington.
Yes, could you tell us, excuse me, the names of your parents and where they were born and raised?
My mother's name was Roselia A. Jenkins Dines. My father, and she, like I, was born in Washington, D.C. My father was born in Maryland, and his name was Philip T. Dines.
And I might ask you, where were you, what's your birth date?
December the 9th, 1913.
Do you have any siblings or brothers, sisters?
No, my mother only had one child, me. Attended all of the schooling, public schools in Washington up until I reached the 8th grade and moved on to Howard University and graduated, and I started taking correspondence courses in education, but by that time I was called by the federal government, so I put it down, went on to work.
Were you married?
Yes. I married Walter Davenport, who was from Illinois, and I met him at, actually, he had a friend who lived in Washington, and he introduced us at my mother's house.
Very good. How many years were you married to Mr. Davenport?
About 75.
Wonderful. But you remained in D.C. All your entire life. You didn't have to go to cold Chicago. Where did you work? What was your occupation?
At the post office.
Okay.
Maine.
Maine post office. Could you tell me a little bit about what did you do for your profession, your work in the federal government?
Well, I was what I considered generally a military clerk, but I worked many places. At the time when I was coming up, you didn't spend a lot of time. It's always temporary, every 3 months something. So I worked at civil service, the census, the Veterans Administration, and I finally retired from Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard.
You have been very active in your churches. Could you tell us a little about your experience in different churches in the Washington, D.C. area?
Well, I was baptized at Walker Memorial Baptist Church, and I stayed there a while and worked. But at that time, I was like a teenager. And then later, I moved to Florida Avenue Baptist Church and remained there for about 19 years. And while I was there, the service is what I'm always feeling like I want to serve somebody. I served as assistant financial secretary of the church. I was a manager of what we called at that time a floral club.
And then you eventually came over to Mount Horeb
Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm. And she's
And
still.
I served then as a secretary, and also a clerk. And then I served as a clerk and a secretary, because that's what was needed at that time.
And also, you didn't tell us, but you chaired the Women's Day program.
Well, I brought the idea to Mount Horeb considering honoring a woman on Women's Day. They always did have Women's Day, but didn't always honor a woman.
Could you tell us a little bit about your affiliation with other organizations outside of the church?
Well, for other organizations, I've always served as a secretary. I've been a secretary to every group I belong to, International Toastmasters, in which I served I got on what they said at that time was the second level. You learned how to, and if I had a daughter at that time, I would certainly put her in with the International Toastmasters. They teach you, it's like a finishing. And they teach you how to be a president, a treasurer, and whatever.
Could you tell us a little bit about your work in your neighborhood?
Oh, I served as secretary to a civic association, Capitol View Civic Association.
Did you do any volunteer work?
I did a lot of volunteer work. I always felt from the time I was a little girl that I wanted to help somebody. And just like the words of that hymn, I was always glad to take somebody to the store, to go bring them home from church, and I did that all the time, right up to the last minute, till I got over here. And then over here I worked with the courier, delivering it, and so that's it. Mrs. Hawkins
Dolores.
brought the Black History group to this Collington. And I opened up with, what was it, a poem, if I remember correctly, that started off and began to serve as their secretary. And secretary was always my life. Always glad to give of my time and service, and I still feel that way. I'd rather tell you about my hobbies.
Okay, that sounds good. That's what I was going to ask you about.
I like to read. My mother told me from a little girl, everything I saw that had any writing, I'd be glad to read it. Out loud, I thought I could really read. So I love to read. I learned to embroidery, to also to crochet, and I like to sing, but only to enhance the volume. I was not a singer. And finally, somebody on my birthday gave me a coloring book that was given for adults, and I use that. That gives me a lot of good time. Like to listen to TV, but I have problems with hearing, and so sometimes I don't hear everything, but I do the best I can.
Well, the best you can is very good. I want to be just like her, and I'm sure a lot of other people do. We have truly enjoyed our fellowship with you today and always. And if anybody else has any comments, remarks, feel free.
I'm interested in changes that you have seen in Washington, D.C. over all those years that you lived there. What do you think was the most important thing that changed in Washington, D.C. over the course of your life there?
Well, I'm surprised. I was surprised when Obama became the president. I didn't know. We have lived past. Well, I won't say that, but anyway, we are able to do the things that we would have liked to have done at the time, and I was coming along. Segregation was very prevalent, and I don't think it is as prevalent now as it was. I don't have anything to really add to what I've just said. I'm very pleased to have been born in Washington, D.C., and God has blessed me with many blessings. I thank everybody who has made the effort to come, and I hope that you enjoyed what we've tried to put over. And I find very often that people tell me that I inspire them, so I keep on looking to be sure that I'm really doing what they really want me to do. So I don't know whether we are running over our time or not. Really, I thought this was just going to be a conversation, but it's a little bit more than I thought. And I thank you for your group for having me, and I've enjoyed working with Dolores, and all those who I have worked with. God has blessed me, and that's as much as I can say.